There was once a brave sailor who had spent countless years sailing across the vast blue seas. He was known for his courage, skill, and love for the ocean. One day, this sailor met a young woman, the daughter of a respected sea captain. The two fell deeply in love and decided to marry. After their wedding, they made a surprising decision. They chose to leave the sea behind and move inland, far away from the salty breeze and crashing waves. In their new home, surrounded by green fields and quiet forests, a son was born to them. They named him Altair. From an early age, Altair showed signs of being different. He was fascinated by tales of the sea, the adventures of sailors, and the mysteries of distant lands. Although he had never seen the ocean, he felt a deep connection to it. His parents often told him stories of their time at sea, and these stories ignited a fire in his heart. As Altair grew older, his longing to experience the sea only grew stronger. He would spend hours imagining himself aboard a ship, feeling the wind on his face and hearing the waves crash against the hull. His parents noticed this and understood that the call of the sea was in his blood. One day his father, the old sailor, called him for a serious conversation. "My son," his father said, his voice filled with both pride and sadness, "you were born to be a sailor. It is in your heart and your destiny. The sea is calling you, and I know you must answer. Go, my boy, seek adventure, find honor, and may fortune smile upon you." Altair's heart swelled with emotion. He hugged his parents tightly, promising to make them proud. With their blessing, he packed his belongings and began his journey to the coast. The path was long and filled with challenges, but Altair was determined. Each step brought him closer to the life he had always dreamed of. As he traveled, the landscape began to change. The gentle hills and quiet forests of the inland gradually gave way to colder winds and towering pine trees. The skies, once soft and blue, grew gray and distant. The journey was tiring, but Altair's excitement kept him going. Finally, one morning, he heard a sound that made his heart race: the distant roar of the surf. Climbing a sandy hill, Altair saw it at last: the great, endless sea. The waves crashed onto the shore in a symphony of white foam, and the air was filled with the salty tang of the ocean. Tears filled Altair's eyes as he shouted with joy. He had finally reached the place he had always dreamed of. To one side, he saw the bustling city with its tall towers and busy streets. To the other, he saw the masts of countless ships rising against the sky. The city was alive with activity. Sailors with weathered faces walked the streets. Merchants in fine clothes haggled over goods, and brave adventurers prepared for their next journeys. Altair felt like he had stepped into a whole new world. Eager to begin his life as a sailor, Altair used his savings to buy proper clothing for the sea: a sturdy jacket, a knitted cap, a blue sailor blouse, and loose-fitting pants. He then found a large ship and signed his name in the crew's logbook. With that, his life as a sailor began. For the next 7 years, Altair sailed across the world. He experienced the gentle calm of starry nights on the open sea, and the terrifying fury of storms that tossed the ship like a toy. He learned the ways of the ocean, working hard and earning the respect of his crewmates. Over time, the boy with bright blue eyes grew into a strong, capable man. His gaze became that of someone who could see far beyond the horizon, and his movements carried the steady rhythm of the sea. Eventually, Altair's dedication and skill earned him the position of captain. He commanded his own ship, a proud vessel that became his home. He led his crew with wisdom and courage, guiding them through both smooth and stormy waters. His reputation as a fair and fearless leader spread far and wide. One day, after returning from a long voyage to the Golden Islands, Altair noticed something unusual. The sea was filled with ships of every size and color, all sailing in the same direction. Large, majestic ships moved gracefully through the water, while smaller vessels bobbed along like playful dolphins, curious Altair hailed a nearby ship to ask what was happening. "These are the ships of the world," the other captain explained. "We are answering the call of the King of the South. He has summoned us all, though no one knows why. Come, join us, and discover the reason for this gathering." Intrigued, Altair decided to follow. His ship joined the great fleet, and together they sailed through calm seas and raging storms. After weeks of travel, they finally reached the Kingdom of the South. The sight that greeted them was breathtaking. The king's palace stood on a hill overlooking the sea, its golden marbles shining in the sunlight. A winding staircase led from the palace down to a beautiful pavilion by the harbor. The Grand Bell Tower, a masterpiece of architecture, rose high above the city, its empty chamber waiting for a bell. In the palace's grand hall, the captains of the world gathered to meet the king. Dressed in a scarlet cloak and a golden crown, the king addressed them. "Captains," he said, "I have called you here for a great purpose. I have built the finest bell tower in the world, and I seek the most beautiful and noble bell to place in it. Travel to every corner of the earth and find this bell for me. Whoever succeeds will be richly rewarded and honored forever." After the meeting, the captains attended a lavish feast. As the day turned to evening, Altair walked down the marble staircase to the harbor. There, he noticed an old fisherwoman and a young girl standing by a pillar. They seemed hesitant to approach him, but Altair, sensing something was wrong, gently asked if they needed help. The young girl, named Thirza, explained their plight. A storm had swept her and her mother away from their home on the dangerous islands, leaving them stranded in the Kingdom of the South. They had been searching for a way back but had found no one willing to help. Moved by their story, Altair promised to take them home. With the fisherwoman and Thirza aboard his ship, Altair set sail. The journey to the dangerous islands was challenging, but Altair's skill and determination saw them through. After 2 weeks, they arrived at the islands, which were surrounded by treacherous reefs and crashing waves. Altair carefully navigated the ship through the hazards, ensuring a safe passage. As they reached the shore, Thirza thanked Altair with heartfelt gratitude. Her reddish gold hair and kind gray eyes left a lasting impression on him. To Altair, she was not only beautiful but also brave and honest, and he knew he would never forget her. Thirza stood on the quiet shore, the waves lapping softly at her feet as she gazed out at the horizon. Altair's ship had just departed, its sails catching the golden rays of the sun. She watched it glide over the shimmering water, her heart heavy with both hope and longing. For a long time she stood still, her eyes fixed on the vessel as it grew smaller and smaller, eventually blending into the distant line where the sea kissed the sky. A soft breeze brushed her face, carrying with it the salty scent of the ocean and a faint echo of the laughter they had shared before his departure. Altair, the young and fearless captain, had embarked on a great quest to find the perfect bell for the bell tower of his homeland. His mission was one of honor and determination, and he had promised Thirza he would not return until he had found the most beautiful and noble bell in existence. But the problem was, the bell he sought was no ordinary one. It was said to resonate with a melody so profound that it could touch the hearts of all who heard it. The seas were vast and uncharted, filled with dangers and mysteries. Altair sailed northward, his ship cutting through the waves with ease. He visited grand cities with golden domes and spires that touched the clouds. In these cities, he discovered bells of silver, copper, and even glass, each beautiful in its own way. Yet none of them seemed right. None carried the soul-stirring sound he sought. From the bustling ports of the north, he journeyed to the warm, sunlit seas of the south. Here, the coasts were adorned with palm trees, their green fronds swaying gently in the breeze. The sands glimmered like gold under the brilliant sunlight, and the vast ocean stretched endlessly before him. Yet even in these distant lands, he could not find the bell he sought. The bells he encountered were either too plain, too dull, or simply lacked the magic he was looking for. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Altair's resolve remained unshaken. On board his ship, he was accompanied by a loyal crew who trusted his leadership implicitly. Among them was the boatswain, an old and experienced sailor who had been with Altair since the captain's earliest days at sea. This seasoned mariner had seen many wonders in his lifetime and carried countless stories from distant lands. One quiet evening, as the ship rocked gently on the waves under a sky filled with stars, the boatswain approached Altair. "Good master," he began, his voice tinged with both wisdom and excitement. "I was born on the eastern islands, where the sea sparkles like diamonds under the morning sun. There we used to hear tales of a legendary island far to the west, a place no one has ever dared to explore. It's said this island is home to a city filled with bells, unlike any found elsewhere. The people there love the sound of bells so much that they spend their days crafting and ringing them. Rare metals, perfect for making noble bells, are found in the island's mountains, and it is said that a wise and powerful king rules there, a king who is the guardian of this mysterious world. It might only be an old sailor's tale, but it has always stayed with me." Altair listened intently, his blue eyes gleaming with renewed hope. "East, north, and south. I have searched," he said, "but my quest has been fruitless. If no one has ever sailed west, then that is where we shall go. Come, boatswain, let us turn the helm. We will follow the setting sun and seek this hidden island." The ship's course was changed, and they began their daring voyage westward. The waters grew clearer, reflecting the vast sky above. The sun blazed in all its glory, casting a golden path on the waves before them. The journey was long and treacherous, with the ocean showing both its beauty and its fury. Days turned into nights, and the sailors often found themselves gazing at the stars, wondering what lay ahead. One serene evening, as the ship gently glided under the moonlight, a faint sound reached their ears. It was soft and melodious, like a distant song carried by the wind. The sailors stood in awe, their hearts leaping with joy. "That must be the island!" they cried, their voices echoing into the vast night. The sound of the bell seemed to guide them, its golden tones growing clearer as they sailed on. By morning, the island came into view, its majestic mountains rising high above the sea. It stood alone in the vast ocean, like a ship anchored in an endless expanse. When they reached the island, they were greeted by the sight of a bustling city, unlike anything they had ever seen. Bells adorned every house and tower, their chimes filling the air with a harmonious symphony. The people wore bells on their garments, and the streets echoed with their merry sounds. Big bells rang out from tall towers, while smaller ones sang in cheerful tones, like children at play. The island's king, an old man with a long white beard, welcomed Altair warmly. "Brave captain," he said, "your journey has brought you to a place where bells are cherished above all else. For your courage and determination, you shall have the most beautiful and noble bell in the world. Today, we will prepare the metal, and tomorrow, it will be cast." The next day, the king and his people gathered at the edge of a fiery pit, where molten metal bubbled and glowed in shades of green, red, and gold. The king held a golden cup filled with earth and cast it into the pit. "O bell," he declared, "with this earth, I bid you to remember the world's sweet sounds, the rustling of leaves, the murmur of streams, and the roar of thunder. Speak of these to all who hear you." Next, he took a golden cup of seawater and poured it into the molten metal. "O bell," he said, "with this water, I bid you to remember the voices of the sea, the whisper of waves, the crash of storms, and the songs of the deep. Let these sounds live within you." The molten metal was then poured into a carefully prepared mold. For 7 days and 7 nights, it cooled and hardened. When the bell was finally unveiled, it was a masterpiece. Artisans carved its surface with intricate designs of flowers, waves, birds, and shells. With the bell safely aboard his ship, Altair began his journey home. However, along the way, supplies ran dangerously low. Forced to dock at a nearby harbor, he sought provisions. It was there that he encountered Kraken, a rival captain who was also returning with a bell. Kraken's bell, though beautiful, was no match for the splendor of Altair's. Jealous and scheming, Kraken visited Altair's ship and saw the magnificent bell. "When will you sail?" he asked. "Tomorrow at noon," Altair replied. Feigning friendship, Kraken suggested, "Would you dare to cross the dangerous islands at night?" "My ship is swift," Altair replied confidently. "We will find the floating bell that marks the safe channel." Kraken, however, had other plans. Early the next morning, he sailed to the dangerous islands and sabotaged the floating bell by breaking the hammers that struck it. With the bell silenced, he sailed away, confident that Altair would meet disaster. But Kraken's treachery did not go unnoticed. Thyrsa, who had followed Altair's journey with a heart full of hope, saw Kraken's evil deed. As evening fell, a storm began to brew. Dark clouds gathered, and the waves grew wild. Spotting Altair's ship racing toward the reefs, Thyrsa cried out, "He won't hear the bell! I must warn him!" Determined to save Altair, she rowed toward the floating bell, her small boat battling the rising waves. The storm raged on, but Thyrsa's courage burned brighter than ever. One stormy evening, as the waves rose high and the wind howled through the air, a courageous young fisher girl named Thyrsa stood on the shore of the dangerous islands. The sea was wild and merciless, but Thyrsa was determined. She knew that ships were out there in the darkness, navigating the perilous reefs, and she had to act. Without hesitation, she grabbed her small fishing boat, her oars, and a round stone she often used as a weight, and hurried toward the water. The sea was a raging monster that night, tossing her small boat as if it were a mere leaf. But Thyrsa held firm, rowing with all her strength against the surging waves and the icy wind that bit at her face. The bell she was aiming for stood on a precarious rock formation, and it was the only hope for the ships in the area. The silent bell had to ring, or the vessels would surely crash into the unseen dangers below the water's surface. Thyrsa fought a fierce battle with the sea, her arms aching as the boat rose and fell with the waves. A massive gust of wind pushed her boat dangerously close to the rocks, but she managed to regain control. Finally, she reached the bell. With trembling hands, she secured her boat to one of the carved stone figures near the bell. The storm seemed to grow even fiercer as she stood there. Clutching her round stone, she struck the bell with all her might, its deep, resonant ding-dong cutting through the chaos of the storm. Far out at sea, Captain Altair, a young sailor on a vital mission, heard the sound of the bell. His ship, which carried an important treasure, was navigating dangerous waters in search of a safe passage. The bell's echo became a guiding beacon, helping him steer his vessel through the treacherous reefs. The fiery glow of the sunset had already faded, and a thick darkness surrounded the ship. The crew worked tirelessly to follow the bell's sound, their hearts racing as waves crashed against the sides of the ship. Finally, Altair's ship passed safely through the reefs, and the captain sighed in relief. Meanwhile, Thyrsa continued her relentless task. Exhausted but steadfast, she noticed the lights of another ship on the horizon. It was also searching for the channel, its crew unaware of the dangers that lay ahead. Though her arms were weak and her body chilled to the bone, she struck the bell once more. The sound rang out again and again, guiding the second ship just as it had guided the first. This vessel, however, stopped and anchored in the small fishing port of the dangerous islands. Once both ships were safe, Thyrsa untied her boat and began rowing back to the shore. The fisherman, who had seen her bravery, had lit a large bonfire to guide her safely home. The warmth of the flames called to her, but just as she thought her task was done, she realized something extraordinary. The anchored ship, unlike the first, was quiet and ominous, and its crew seemed to be watching her every move. The next morning, the mysterious ship disappeared, and so did Thirza. When Altair returned to the dangerous islands after completing his journey, he was devastated to learn that the brave fisher girl who had saved his life was gone. The fisherman told him how she had rung the bell to guide his ship and the others through the reefs. They feared the second ship may have been a pirate vessel that had taken her away. Altair's heart was heavy with sorrow, but he refused to give up. He began an endless search for Thirza, sailing from one coast to another, asking about her wherever he went. Months turned into a year, and still, he found no trace of her. Finally, his journey led him to the Kingdom of the Moon, a mystical land known for its beauty and mystery. He went to the palace, hoping to find answers. The queen of the kingdom was young and regal, dressed in a shimmering silver robe and adorned with a silver crown. Her face was hidden behind a heavy silver veil, and her voice was calm and measured. She listened intently as Altair told her of his search for the fisher girl who had saved him. When he finished, the queen sighed deeply and advised him to let go of his quest. "The fisher girl is gone," she said softly. "You will never find her. Stay here in my kingdom, and I will make you the admiral of my fleet." But Altair was steadfast in his loyalty to Thirza. He shook his head and refused the queen's offer, seeing his determination. The queen smiled mysteriously and laughed quietly. Then she reached up and lifted her veil. To Altair's astonishment, it was Thirza herself who sat before him. "Dear Altair," she said, her voice filled with emotion, "you have finally found me. Let me tell you everything. I am the daughter of the king of this land. Long ago, during a voyage, our ship was caught in a terrible storm and wrecked on the reefs of the dangerous islands. Everyone on board perished, except for me. The fishermen of the islands took me in and raised me as one of their own. For years my people searched for me. But it wasn't until a fisherman from this kingdom landed on the islands by chance and heard my story that I was found. They sent a ship to bring me home, but the winds were dangerous, and we had to leave quickly. That was the night I saw your ship and rang the bell to save you." Altair was overjoyed to be reunited with Thirza. They promised to stay together forever, and soon their love blossomed into a grand wedding. The celebration was unlike any other, filled with music, laughter, and joy. Altair's parents and Thirza's foster family joined in the festivities, along with sailors who played horn flutes and sang old sea shanties. From that day forward, Altair and Thirza ruled the Kingdom of the Moon together, their love as deep and enduring as the sea. And thus, their story of bravery, loyalty, and destiny became a legend told across the lands.